Here's the end of week 3. We'll go ahead and get started. So again, it looks like it's just Kim and I for this meeting, but we'll have the recording for other people to watch later. I guess that's convenient if you can't make it live. So again, we'll do the end of week 3. We did have a few, I think about 3 to 5 people do the survey, so we've got a reasonable data set now for end of week 3. We'll cover that in a little bit. So by week 3, hopefully, again, we've learned that eating healthy is very important. Really good to have a balanced diet of protein, fats, and carbohydrates. Try to avoid those simple sugars and eat as many natural products as possible. One of the first things people like to say after they hear about my diet concept is, oh, can I eat nothing but cups of patient today asked me about Cadbury eggs, others Reese's or Snickers or whatever. Obviously, on the surface, you need to do more than just count your cups. You need to actually have a balanced diet inside those cups. So it's really important to eat healthy, but also eat the appropriate amount of healthy food. So too much healthy food can make you overweight and cause you to gain weight. And so no matter what, even if you're eating really good, healthy foods, they still have calories in them, and they'll still cause you to gain weight. So it's not so much about the type of food as how much food you eat. Others have shown diets that have been successful for weight loss with just eating pizza or just eating Subway. I think of Jared. For the most part, calories are calories are calories. It doesn't really matter exactly where they come from, but they're calories nonetheless, and they're building blocks for essentially fat. So we have to be careful, but they're also energy. We need our energy. So after week 3, hopefully you've sort of figured out the answer to this question. What's the most important part of weight loss? Is it diet? Is it exercise? Is it commitment? And the answer is commitment. Really it's good to have all 3 things, but first you need the commitment, and then you follow that with the appropriate diet, and then you follow that with appropriate amount of exercise. So again, without the commitment to both of those things, you're not going to find much success if you don't have at least the commitment to the right diet. If you have great commitment to exercise, you can easily sabotage that effort by a disproportionate intake, by eating too many cups. And so you might have the greatest commitment in the world to exercise a lot, but if your goal is to lose weight, you need to have the right dietary intake as well. If you have that commitment to the appropriate dietary intake, but you don't have the great commitment to exercise, that's okay. You cannot sabotage an appropriate dietary intake with a lack of exercise. So it doesn't help, it doesn't make it easy, but again, it doesn't send you in reverse. So ideally, you have all 3 components. You have that commitment to diet and exercise. You have the commitment, and you have the commitment to diet, commitment to exercise. So ideally, you have all 3. But if nothing else, have that commitment for sure to the diet. So if after week 3 you have lost weight or not, why is it? Really for the most part, it's all about sticking to the plan. It's virtually impossible for it not to work. Weight loss will occur more rapidly or slower than expected. You might lose weight faster or slower than your peer. It's a delicate balance of intake, exercise, and what is consumed. What is in those cups, how many cups you're taking in, and how much energy you're expending. And again, those using a 2-cup deficit are going to lose about 1 pound per week. Those using about a 4-cup deficit are going to lose approximately 2 pounds per week. But again, that's not always going to be true for every individual. We're dealing with averages. So as we talked about before, hunger is really sort of a necessary evil. Somebody filled out the questionnaire last week and said, I didn't lose weight, and I really wasn't hungry. And what that means is that person probably has a lower metabolism, a lower energy expenditure, or so that person has to titrate their number of cups down a little bit. So it's sort of a necessary evil. It's really a sign of a calorie deficit if you have hunger. It's really a sign ultimately that you are losing weight. It's not meant to be starvation. It's not meant to be punishment, and it's not meant to be rewarded. In other words, if you feel hungry, you don't reward that hunger with a bunch of food, because then you're sabotaging your efforts for weight loss. So really, if you just think about it from a very simplistic standpoint, if in the last year any of us had eaten 10% less than we did, we would weigh approximately 10% less than we do right now. So again, a very simple formula. If somehow magically in the past year you cut out 10% of what you ate every day, you would now weigh approximately 10% less than you do right now. So let's use that formula in the future and cut out our 10% in the future, so that a year from now you can look back and say, hey, I cut out 10% or 20% or 30% or whatever the number is, and now I weigh 10%, 20%, 30% less than I did a year ago. So we're planning for the future because we know it's going to work. So how important is exercise? Again, it's important, but as I've said before, you cannot exercise yourself skinny. So no matter how much you try and exercise like a mad man or woman, if you don't have the right dietary intake, you are going to still gain weight. You cannot easily create a calorie deficit by just exercising more and consuming the same amount of food, because unless you're really committed to consuming the same amount of food, your body will say, feed me. Your body's going to feel hungry after you've exercised, because now you have a tremendous calorie deficit. You've just burned off these calories, and your body is telling you, we need those calories. And so, again, unless you're using sort of the ProportionFit diet or some other means, but again, the cups is a very simple way to do it. Unless you're following that and really committing yourself to a certain number of cups per day, no matter how much you exercise, you are going to, again, undo any progress you make. And so, really important to try to stick to it. Overrule what your body's saying and overrule what your mind is saying. After you exercise, there's a tendency to feel like you can eat a little bit more because you just worked out. The sense that you can reward yourself and you give yourself a little extra treat. But again, you have to sort of very consciously overrule both your body and your mind and say, you know what, I am not starving myself. I'm committing myself to a certain dietary intake every week, and if I exercise a little bit more, good for me. I've just rewarded myself by sort of jump starting and turbo boosting my weight loss. I'm going to lose a little bit more. So it's really just important to maintain the same intake and get that exercise going, and that'll just help you with your weight loss. So the other sticker is sometimes, especially if you're overweight and it's tough on your joints, sometimes you have to lose weight just to tolerate the exercise. So it's not easy to walk a mile, or it's not easy to run on a treadmill if you have a 300-pound frame. So sometimes you have to just shed some pounds in order to be able to withstand some more vigorous exercise. And as my scientific, or not so scientific, general rule is, I think it's about 90% diet and 10% exercise. I've noticed that personally. I've noticed that with other people that have done this diet and other diets, and I think you see that too just when you crunch the numbers. When you look at the amount of energy expenditure you get from exercise, it's only equal often to 1 hour of exercise is only equal to often 1 or 2 cups of food. And so if you can just commit yourself to not eating that extra cup or 2 of food, you've equated 1 hour of exercise to that. So a lot easier to not eat the cup or 2 than to just exercise for an hour often in our busy lives. So again, just reviewing those concepts, it's important to have a balanced diet. Obviously, you want to have good, healthy, natural foods, balancing your proteins, your fats, and your carbohydrates. Ideally, again, you're measuring anything that contains calories, whether it's liquid or solid, alcoholic beverages, sugary pops, sodas, juices, things like that. You have to be careful of. Try to spread those meals and foods out as much as possible throughout the day. Ideally, 3 to 4 meals during the day is ideal. And again, that weight loss phase will prepare you for a maintenance phase. As you lose weight, you're going to find that if you've committed yourself to eating only 4 or 5, 6 cups per day, if your baseline ends up being 6, 7, or 8 cups ultimately, once you go back to that 6, 7, or 8 cups per day, you're going to find that that's plenty of food, and that fills you up very easily. Again, exercise is important, but not as critical as diet, and really the goal is to stick with it. Set some goals for yourself, whether it's exercise, weight loss goals, health goals, whatever it is. As I've said before, if you don't know where you're going, you'll never get there because you don't know where there is. And so it's really important to set some goals for yourself so that in a month or 2 months or 3 months, you really have something to shoot for and something to strive for, because it's really hard to motivate yourself otherwise. Again, just to review, again, the bands, and if you look at a pop can, again, up to that line is going to be about 8 ounces right there. So that's 1 cup or 2/3 of a 12-ounce can. So again, just that visual reminder. This is a chart I just show. I have a Fitbit scale which records my weight wirelessly through my home network, and this is sort of this is the phase right here where I was finishing writing the book. And then right here is when I sort of finished the whole concept. I said, okay, I'm going to put myself on my own diet. And I did it for 2 months. My goal is to get my weight down to about 197, which is right where I got to. And you can see I had and again, not everyone is nice and linear like this, but I had a nice linear weight loss over the course of 2 months where I dropped, what amounted to be about 16 pounds, right on schedule, and then it's been easy for me to maintain that weight. Does my weight creep up and down a little bit in the winter? It does a little bit, but not nearly like it used to. I used to easily balloon up to about 215, even 220 pounds in the winter time. Now I go up to maybe 205 or so. So it's really a lot easier now that I understand just the volume of food intake that I need to stick to, how easy it is to maintain my weight. Again, just the dreaded body mass index table, just to review. Hopefully after 3 weeks you might have found yourself, bumping down 1 level, even 2 if you're doing really well. But a lot of people will be moving down the scale. When I started, when I wrote the book, I was up here right at the 30 mark, and I've cut myself down. I'm still at about the 27 mark, which I'm content with. I don't, for my frame, I don't desire to be in the normal BMI category at 177 pounds. I haven't been there since I was in probably 10th grade, so I don't plan on getting back there. So again, let's review these surveys that some of you folks did. This is the week 3 survey. So we've got 22 people that have answered this over the course of the last probably 3 months. Just looking at these, and again, we're going to break these down a little bit. It's really interesting to look at this. So how easily or how well have you been able to follow your recommended cup allowances? You see it sort of all over the board, somewhere with some difficulty being on average and on either side, which is, again, typically what you're going to see. Again, how hungry you felt. Most people are going to feel a little hungry to somewhat hungry. Ideally, you're not very hungry, so you're just starving all the day long. And if you're really trying to lose weight, you probably shouldn't be in the not hungry category either. That means you're doing something wrong there too. So you really should be in this little hungry to somewhat hungry category if you're following the program appropriately. This is usually what we see, sort of a bell-shaped curve here based on baseline energy level. So it could be up and down a little bit, but for the most part, most people are right based around that baseline of normal, some more, some less energetic. How are you using the system? Again, one person not even trying to lose weight, so take that for what it's worth. Other people subtracting 2, 3, 4, 6 cups, and then I'm surprised when I developed this. A lot of people do like the eat to the weight they want to be approach, which seems to work well for a lot of people. So there tends to be a majority of people that actually do that and seem to have pretty good success with it. So here's what I find an interesting chart, and again, keep this in your mind as we go back and break these down. But here's how much weight have you lost after 3 weeks on a proportionate fit diet. It goes anywhere from no weight lost down to, what's our max here, 13 pounds. So anywhere from 0 to 13 pounds, and a pretty good spread all the way through there. A little bit of a cluster here between 4 and 8 pounds, which is good. Again, probably on average what we want to see is right around the 6 to 8 pounds. And I think if you average, I'll show you the average a little bit later. But going down a little bit further, what's the biggest challenge? Again, same thing. Most people, just the trouble with trying to stick with it, the fact that they're hungry, there are temptations all around me. Andrew, you're on now, so you can attest to the fact that the patient brought in cookies today, and that's not easy because I love chocolate chip cookies, so I eat them. But anyways, that is a common problem for most people. What's your favorite part? Again, just hopefully the simplicity seems to resonate with a lot of people. And again, here's an important chart, and this one we're going to break down a little bit. So after 3 weeks, how confident are you that we lose at least 10 pounds in the first 6 weeks? Again, all across the board. Some people not confident at all. Some people are convinced. So, and then here's the other thing. How closely have you followed it? Most people fairly closely, but some people are, again, not really following it at all. And so let's break those down. So if we look at these numbers, and again, remember this chart right here, the spread from no weight loss down to 13 pounds. So if we sort this data now, if we look at the people that just report following this diet exactly as described or fairly closely, we have now 14 out of 22. So originally we had 22, now we've whittled it down to just 14 people. These people find it a little bit easier. There's nobody with any difficulty following things. These people are, again, in the appropriately little hungry to somewhat hungry category. All right. These people, again, follow that same bell curve, the baseline to slightly more, slightly less energetic. Again, subtracting anywhere from 3 cups to eating to the weight they want to be. And then here's, I think, the really interesting thing. So look at the weight loss now. I mean, you still have one sort of straggler here, just losing 1 pound, again, for whatever reason. But then now you see this nice cluster of people down here going from 5 down to 13 pounds. And so, again, you can see how now things are sort of skewed for the people that are following the diet more closely. they're doing better down here. And I think this average, when you do the math on this, I think the average ends up being about 7.5 pounds. You know, so after 3 weeks, losing about 7.5 pounds is a pretty good number. And then if we scroll down again, looking at the same people, I think right here it's interesting too. If you remember the same chart we looked when we had everyone in here, now out of this group, you know, most people are at least somewhat confident or even convinced. We don't have anyone that's not confident or mildly confident. So again, let's look at that data now sort of filtered the other way. Let's look at that data with just the people that are following it somewhat or slightly or really not at all. You know, so now we're down to 8 out of 22 people that are. Now look at this, how, you know, the other group, you remember how these three columns were filled? Now for this group that are not really following it, they're down here. And again, either that's a problem with the system that people don't get it, or just a problem with commitment. Hard to say. Again, in this group we have at least one person not hungry. Again, a variation, not as many people doing the eat to the weight they want to be. And then here's again the interesting thing. So now look at this chart for the people that aren't really following it very well. They're anywhere from no weight loss to a maximum of 5 pounds lost, some 4 pounds lost, one person 2 pounds lost, and nobody's below that. So again, to me, what that means to me as a take home is that you know, if you follow it, it'll work. If you don't follow it, it's probably not going to work. You know, so sort of the moment, but it's just the way it is. You know, if you, like a lot of things, unless you really stick to it, you're not going to succeed. There are still people that do stick to it, and like was shown, there was only 1 pound weight loss there for someone. And you know, even if you're following it, what seems to be appropriately, you do have to make some adjustments to figure out how to get your weight down, or you're dealing with, you know, all sorts of different things. The other thing is, here's that confidence chart again. Now for the people that are not following it very closely, they're either not confident, mildly confident, somewhat confident, or confident. Again, you can see how the chart is really skewed. You know, with the people that are following it closely, they tend to be skewed down here. The ones that are not following it very closely are skewed up here. So again, I think that's an important sort of distinction and an interesting way to look at, you know, how these different groups break down. So again, by week 3, what do we learn? Hopefully you've learned that commitment is really important. We should all be committed to something. So you need the appropriate dietary intake. You know, whether it's the right food. First, you need the right foods, and then you need the right volume of foods. It helps to have some exercise thrown in as well. And so again, that's going to be helpful. It's not absolutely critical, but it definitely helps in the process. Hopefully you're paying attention to what you eat and drink, and if you're not, you will notice the weight gain or the lack of weight loss. And so hopefully by week 3 too, you've become much more comfortable at measuring volumes. It becomes easier. And hopefully too, you set an activity goal for yourself. I'm hoping to, you know, personally, I'm hoping to do a half marathon at the end of May. So I need to get my butt going and start running a little bit more for that. But I need to prepare now so that I'm ready in 2 months. And the other key thing is, I think this, just as we showed when we look at that SurveyMonkey data, this is working for those who are following the program. So again, the people that are following it, it's working for them. The people that are not following it very well are having more trouble. So that is it with my big audience here of Kim and Andrea. Do you guys have any questions? I don't know if you have microphones or not, but you can fire off a little question in the chat box if you want. And then Kim, you mentioned maybe just to go over some things in the book if you like, you know, real pertinent, important things to cover. Let me know if you have any specific questions. If either of you are trying to talk to me, I can't hear you, just to make sure I'm not ignoring you, but I don't get any. Can't hear you at all if you are trying to talk to me, so you'd have to type something in that chat box. Otherwise, if I don't hear anything from you guys, I'm going to assume you're done. All right. Should we keep track of how much dairy or veggies? Again, I don't think it's so much a matter of keeping track of what you eat. I think dairy and veggies are great food items, but again, you do have to keep track of them in so much as you count those cups. So it's really, again, unlike Weight Watchers and things like that, which allow you free foods, part of, I think, the success of this type of a system is the fact that you're sort of training or conditioning your stomach to accept smaller volumes of food. And so if you consider veggies to be a very low-calorie food, that's great, but again, they're still a high-volume food, and so you still need to count them, you keep track of them, just like you would any other food item. But you don't need to distinguish, you know, dairy versus veggies and things like that as far as, you know, keeping some sort of a journal. If that helps you just to make sure you're having a balanced diet, that's great. But I think you definitely have to keep track of just the cups of whether it's dairy or veggies. Any other questions or thoughts? I think one of the important things too is, you know, if you've gone through the book, again, it's a pretty simple concept, you know, just to stick with the right number of cups. I think the other thing to keep in mind, or just to help you along the way, is I think go to the ProportionFit.com website and go to the track page, you know, for these surveys, because we've got, well, here, I'll just go to it right now. But you can look at the results of other time periods, you know, people that have done the surveys in the past. So if you look at, go to ProportionFit here at some point. Sorry, I've been having some computer issues, so things run a little bit slowly here, just like at work. So if we go to track here, sorry for the delay. There we go. So if we go to the track page, you can at least go down there and look at some of these other results. So again, end of week 6, you know, to see how people are doing at week 6. Again, we only have 10 responses so far, but again, we have this sorted for the exactly to fairly closely group. And it's encouraging to look at this and sort of see how people do. So again, after week 6, you know, again, the variation is anywhere from 7 to 17 pounds of weight loss. So again, that's very encouraging. If you go to 2 months, how many answers do we have? I think we only have like 3. We're up to, I'm sorry, month 2, sorry. So that was month 2. So again, same thing. We have a good 7 answers, anywhere from 5 pounds all the way down to 25 pounds. So again, a good variation, but a good cluster. And this is for the group of people that are, again, I think following it either exactly or closely. So it's really, I do have even 6-month result. Let's see. Sorry. You see all of my random stuff I have here on my computer. So again, just real quick, look at the month 6 data. Yeah, we only have two responses there. But you can see eventually that again, the weight loss, if you stick to it, you know, can be significant. You know, here's 19 to 20 pounds weight loss and 45 or more pounds. So again, after 6 months, you know, again, a good amount of weight loss. So again, the opportunity is certainly there to lose it. I think you just have to stick to the plan, and it really is important to stick with it. You're going to have your ups and downs, you know, based on your metabolism, anywhere from hormonal cycles to stress in your life to feeling ill to fluid retention to, you know, everything. It's all about the averages. You stick with it. You know, some weeks are going to be more productive than others, but again, I think if you stick with it, you will succeed. And it's just a matter of really committing yourself to it and hopefully having someone alongside you, whether it's a friend or family member or whoever, to help coach you along the way. I think that really does help. So if there aren't any more questions, I guess we'll wrap it up. All right, going once, going twice. Kim, thank you for joining us, and let me know if you have any problems or any questions. Andrew, you too. Hope you had a good night. And we'll see you. Next meeting is going to be in actually 3 weeks because I'm going to be out, so it's going to be the end of week 6 that we're going to meet next. And you guys keep me posted. Have a good night. Bye.